Hello guys, welcome to round number 2 of Norway Chess 2026. We had one decisive game in the classical portion. Let's take a look at this game. So Alireza was playing with Pragg, again back to back with white. He beat Magnus yesterday and now plays another game with white. So I don't remember exactly if Alireza played Pragg. I think he played him in Romania a few days ago, and if I'm not mistaken, he lost that game. I might be wrong. You can let me know in the comment section if they played or Pragg got an extra point. I think Pragg won the game. But okay, let's take a look at what happened here. So, HD is played by Pragg. His best choice is to play King B8. So, in the endgame, at least in the Russian school of chess, you're being taught when it's an endgame, you gotta bring your king to the middle of the board. And King B8 in the following case would have been the best move. Once again, there are a lot of complications, like let's say what would have happened in case Rook F5. Because now, let's say, computer suggests Bishop F7, but then there is Rook F7, you gotta calculate it. But apparently, after Rook F8 takes, it's not really clear how white can continue, because let's say, I don't know like what to play here. Let's say after you're just trying to get this pawn, there's just simple bishop h6 and suddenly you're putting pressure on this pawn. And if you go f4, I mean, I probably will be happy because knight is super restricted, and let's say bishop f8, this knight is basically stuck because knight c2, rook g7, let's say rook g1, there is ht. Oh, not ht, just simple bishop e7. And this knight cannot go anywhere because ht, there is g4, and suddenly let's say h2, rook h1, rook g4, rook h2, and suddenly there are a lot of threats that white can do. But okay, h3, I mean, not a bad move. Takes, rook f5, rook d6, knight c2, and suddenly Alireza managed to get some edge. So a6, rook g1, rook g4, knight b4, and as you might see, knight reroutes. So rook f4 takes knight b4, going back, threatening maybe to play knight d5. So takes knight d5, bishop g5, rook g4, bishop d8, and now knight c3 comes back. This pawn is under attack. It is not savable. And from now on, Alireza demonstrated more or less great technique. Rook g4, rook e4. King goes to c2 to support this pawn. Now knight c4. And after absolutely brilliant move, because now if takes knight d2 or knight d5, discover attack and white wins. So rook h6, knight d2, a5 threatening checkmate, so rook h4 was played. And after f4, good luck protecting it, c4, rook c4, and Pragg resigned. And Alireza is winning the second game of the tournament. He's gonna be playing 2 games with black in the next 2 rounds against Gukesh and Wesley. Let's take a look at how their game finished. Because Wesley played against Gukesh with white, so the classical portion ended in a draw. Let's see what happened in Armageddon. Bishop f5, bishop g5. So in terms of opening, Wesley played e4, e5, knight c3, the same thing as Gukesh played, but after knight f6, g3, and bishop g2, knight g2. So bishop f6, and now takes the pawn on d5. Bishop b2, rook b1, bishop b5, rook b7, queen c8, and now rook b5. And as you might see, white are up a pawn. But let's say the crucial thing to consider, what happens after bishop h3. After bishop h3, after takes, there is rook c5 attacking the knight. And if knight moves, let's say anywhere, I don't know, knight d, there is knight e7 and rook e5. If knight doesn't move, if knight doesn't move, let's say rook c8, there is rook c6, knight e7, king h8. What is going on? Disappeared. So bishop e7 was played. Rook c5, pin in this one, knight e7 is a threat, so queen goes to e8, rook e1. Now putting pin on this file. Rook d8, a lot of pins. f4, bishop d6, and now knight f6 is a blunder. So Wesley was supposed to play bishop, rook c6, bishop c6, knight d4, and let's say king d7, knight c6. And now if you take, there's knight f6 and you take on c6 and you get a little edge. Even though, I mean, it's still technically, oh, king g4. Yeah, you gotta play king h8 and then, yeah, a lot of things, but white end up winning. So knight f6 takes king d6. Now you're threatening the knight, but now queen e3, and suddenly black got counter, play king h2, and bishop h3 is a mistake. Because after queen c6, bishop g2, king g2, there is no real way to get a hold of this because king f1. And now queen f3 is just a little move. I mean, just a bad move, losing a queen. So rook e8, trying to stop more attacks, and rook c3. So the thing is, though, I mean, yeah, you don't really want to play this because, okay, rook e2 takes, rook e2, queen a4. But okay, I mean, rook c3, just put some extra layer of defense, and let's say queen a7, queen f3, and good luck trying to take this knight. So Wesley ended up winning in the Armageddon, and we move on. You probably ask, where is Magnus? What happened to Magnus? So Magnus pushed really hard against Vincent with white. In the classical game, he had a great chance of winning, couldn't convert, and they moved on to Armageddon. So, let's scroll to this moment, crucial moment of the game. c3 was played by Mr. Vincent Keymer. Sorry guys, hope you see everything. So, f6 was supposed to be played. You don't let knight go to e5, but you let knight jump to d4. But now king f7. And there's no e6. Okay, I mean, you can put knight to c6, but I mean, knight on d6 is a really good defender to the pawn. You cannot really do anything. I mean, there are some threats of potential d3, so you play rook d5. And now, I mean, computer recommends just to play rook c4, which is a bit insane, but still equality on the board. Instead, we have c3 and now d3. And suddenly, there is no activity whatsoever for black, because I mean, Vincent maybe thought that Magnus is gonna take, but then takes, knight d4. c4, there is knight c5 and you take on a4. So, if in case of d4, rook c4, and suddenly, I mean, Magnus is risking to lose, but after simple d3, I mean, what a move. Like, black have no activity whatsoever. There is absolutely nothing Vincent can do. The only plan I can think of is, let's say, some e6, and then let's say knight f5, trying to attack this one, then knight e7, but there is knight d7, rook c7, knight d6. You're not on time. But let's do some random moves here. So let's say, I don't know, let's say h3, knight f5, king f2, knight e7, let's say g4, there is knight d5 and there is knight b4. Like, that's the only plan Vincent has. But the problem is, if Magnus plays correctly, I mean, this is never gonna happen. So f6 is played, knight d4, king f7, knight c6, h4, g4, g5, and now takes. Takes, Magnus is simply up upon king f2, king f3, not king g3, guys. King g3, there are still some complications after knight f5, king h3, knight f3, attacking the pawn, so Magnus goes the most precise way. And sometimes you want to actually leave this pawn for later. Just imagine you trade rooks, and I mean, this becomes a huge target. So knight b7, knight d7, brilliant knight sacrifice, because after king s7, rook c7, white get to win an endgame, knight c5, knight g8. And Vincent had to resign because, let's say, king g8, rook c5, and you can just play whatever you want. King f4, king d5, and white wins the game. So Magnus wins the Armageddon. And as far as standings go, you cannot see the full picture. Alireza first with 6 points. Wesley 2.5. Gukesh 2.5. Vincent 2 points. Magnus 1.5 points. And Pragg 1.5 points as well. So as you might see, Alireza kinda got ahead of everyone so far. So very interesting if he can keep up with the pace. He plays again as I mentioned earlier, Gukesh with black tomorrow, and Wesley So with black as well. So let's see how it goes for him. I mean, it's going to be fun to watch. Hope you guys enjoyed. See you tomorrow after recap, after round number 3. Bye.